These drivers had one job, literally just one job, and that was do not let Joey Logano into the championship 4. They failed, and the 22 team rose to the occasion, and many have mixed emotions. Talk about it. Hey everyone, my name is Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we do motorsports media your way, talking about NASCAR all the time. And first up, congrats are in order for Ty Majeski winning the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Championship. To think, at Martinsville, if Christian Eckes would have let any other driver win that was sitting below that cutoff line, Ty Majeski would have been booted out of the championship 4, but ultimately Ty Majeski dominated the race at Phoenix, winning it and the championship, so congrats to him. Second, after 14 long years of waiting, we can finally say that Justin Allgaier is a NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, and he had to earn that win. He had to go to a backup car after a wreck in practice. He had to start at the back of the pack, race his way to the front. Then he had a rubbed tire going down towards the end of a stage. He had to nurse that car to the end of that stage, but ultimately it was okay. Then he suffered a restart violation, and while he was serving that with a pass-through penalty, he sped on pit road. So he had to come back from those penalties with a fantastic race car and with a great timed caution. He was able to get back onto the lead lap, fight for the championship, and with the drive of his life in 2 overtime restarts, was able to win it, the best of the rest, getting the championship. And though Justin Allgaier won the championship, it was Riley Herbst that won the race, closing out Stewart-Haas Racing's time as a team on a high, though they didn't win the championship, at least closing it out with a race win. And that brings us to our third and final race of the 2024 season for NASCAR, the NASCAR Cup Series Championship race at Phoenix. From early wrecks to the pace car literally just hurling itself into the sand barrels in front of pit road. Yes, that actually happened this race. This race had it all. And ultimately, and it should be no surprise, the championship came down to the 2 Penske cars of the 22 and the 12. Reddick simply just did not have the car, the speed to contend with the rest of the championship 4, and William Byron, though his car was decent, it was not as good as the Penske bunch. On the final restart of this race due to a caution, William Byron was on the front row after Rudy Fugle decided to keep him out late, getting him the track position he needed in case there was a caution. Ultimately, it did work in their favor, so they started on the front row with teammates Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott right beside him. However, when the green flag dropped, Joey Logano went to the bottom of the racetrack, going around all those in the front row and got the lead for himself. Meanwhile, Ryan Blaney was really held up by the 9 and the 5 and struggled to get around those 2 cars, and ultimately that would be the 12 car's downfall. Ryan Blaney's car had excellent long run speed. There was no question about it. It was a matter, though, of making the most on those restarts, so you had time to battle your way to the front, and ultimately with how much the 5 car held the 12 up, there just wasn't enough time. With 10 laps to go, it was a dogfight between Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney to see who would take home that championship for Roger Penske for the 3rd year in a row, and ultimately Joey Logano was able to stay in front, cross the start-finish line first, win the race, and win his 3rd title. And as a 3-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, Joey Logano now joins a list of legendary drivers to accomplish the same feat, like Tony Stewart, Cale Yarborough, and Darrell Waltrip, to name a few. This guy, and even numbered years, the field had one job, literally only one job, and that was do not let the 22 anywhere near the round of 8, because they know his stats at Vegas, they know his stats in the round of 8, and what that means in even numbered years for Joey Logano's chances at winning a championship. With Bowman's disqualification after the ROVAL, boom, the 22 is into the round of 8. He was the driver in the catbird seat on points to advance in case something happened. Then the 22 team heads into Vegas, a track that they have fantastic history at in the fall in the playoffs. He wins the race, and automatically Joey Logano is into the championship 4, having the most time of any of the championship 4 contenders to work on that car, which is a huge advantage. And then the story just writes itself. We know how good Joey Logano is at Phoenix, and ultimately how good Penske as a whole is at Phoenix, and boom, you have the 3rd title for Joey Logano. Ultimately, I know this championship win from Joey Logano leaves a lot of fans with a sour taste in their mouth. And trust me, I get it. I don't disagree with you. When looking at our major statistical categories for the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season, Joey Logano and much of the championship 4, for that matter, are not leading any of those categories. On top of that, he has the worst average finishing position of any NASCAR Cup Series champion ever, that average finishing position of the season being 17.11. But here's the thing, we're not in a format that rewards full season consistency. Sometimes it does, looking at the 2021 season for Kyle Larson, and sometimes it doesn't. You have Kevin Harvick winning 9 races in 2020 and not even making the championship 4. But what this format does reward is showing up at the right time, taking advantage of those second or third chances, getting race wins to move you into the next round of the playoffs or to give you a playoff berth. This playoff system does not really reward consistency. It rewards performing at the right moments, and that's what Team Penske and the 22 team are so good at doing. And performing in that way in this format will earn you a championship. And do I like how this playoff format works where it rewards drivers that perform at the right time? No, I've been very clear about that in my past videos over the past few weeks. Steve Phelps and Steve O'Donnell during their State of the Sport address earlier this weekend said that they would consider making some changes to the playoff format during the offseason, but they did say the playoff format is here to stay. So do I like the playoff format? No. Do I feel like the most consistent driver this season was awarded the championship? No. But ultimately, Joey Logano was given a second chance into the playoffs after the 48 team dropped the ball. He won at Vegas. You win and you're into the championship 4, and ultimately, Phoenix is Team Penske's playground. The 22 team did a great job, won the race, and won the championship. And I go back to a quote that I've heard a lot this season is don't hate the player, hate the game. And I think when we leave Phoenix, that is the thought we're left with. Looking at the rest of our results for our championship 4, Ryan Blaney finishing in that second position was so close to winning a back-to-back championship. Unfortunately, he just could not get to the bumper of Joey Logano and make a pass stick. Then we have William Byron in 3rd, and then, of course, in 6th, Tyler Reddick. Other notable finishing positions, we have Noah Gragson finishing the highest of the Stewart-Haas Racing drivers in their final race as an organization. He finished this event in 12th. Carson Hocevar, who finished this race in 18th, is your Sunoco Rookie of the Year, finishing a whopping 107 points ahead of the second place contender for that Rookie of the Year title, Josh Berry. What an incredible accomplishment for him. He kind of smoked the field this year and made his presence known in this series, so I'm excited to see what they can do next year. And then, of course, I'm happy to say Jimmy Johnson finished this race, did not cause any cautions, and finished 26th, his best points-paying finish of the 2024 season. I think the big story of this race at Phoenix is just change. The need for change or a time for change, new beginnings, and the closing of books. I'm talking about Martin Truex Jr.'s final race of his full-time career where he won the pole for this event. Unfortunately, he finished outside the top 15, but nevertheless, at least he ended his career as a full-time driver with a pole. You have Denny Hamlin posting a thank you FedEx video before the race started, signaling the end of FedEx's time in NASCAR, sponsoring in NASCAR, which is a huge loss for the sport. They have been a major supporter of this series, of Joe Gibbs Racing, of Denny Hamlin. There's no news as to who could be filling those sponsorship slots next year, but that's a major loss for the sport. Speaking of goodbyes, Rick Allen probably called his last race this weekend after the booth thanked him for all that he's done. Rick Allen posting on social media thanking several people for this opportunity. So Rick Allen, one of the GOATs, somebody who I went into the sport with as just kind of the voice of NASCAR for me at least, he's probably gone after this season. Wayne Otten, the Xfinity Series director, is retiring, so congrats to him on a wonderful career, and we wish him the best moving forward. The Camaro will technically not exist in NASCAR anymore after this weekend, as they're going to be running kind of an undefined body style next year with Camaro not on the car. We already talked about Stewart-Haas Racing closing their doors, and there were so many more last this weekend that it just kind of felt like a changing of the guard. And even with all of these last, a lot of these people put their blood, sweat, tears, life, energy, everything into making the sport what it is. So to all of those people, thank you for your time, thank you for your energy, thank you for your effort, and thank you for everything you have done to make this sport what it is. And I wish you all the best on what's next for you. Speaking of the closing of chapters and new beginnings, let's talk about Phoenix itself, because in 2026, we might not go back to Phoenix as the championship race. During the State of the Sport address, Steve O'Donnell and Steve Phelps said that they will be looking closely at the TV numbers and the attendance numbers for Homestead Miami in the spring. They'll also be considering during the offseason and next year, what track could we go to for a championship race? But it is so hard to recreate the magic, or I guess the aura, around the Phoenix race weekend as it always sells out. There's consistency there, and ultimately they feel that whole weekend is stellar for NASCAR. But if next year is going to be the last time for at least a while that we have a championship race at Phoenix, let's at least talk about the product that we saw this weekend, because ultimately, again, the Xfinity Series was a home run, one of the best championship races that I had seen for the Xfinity Series in my time as a NASCAR fan. The Truck Series was really a runaway, nothing totally interesting there. And for the Cup Series race, it was kind of like that in-between race of the weekend where it wasn't a total runaway. We had some competition for that top spot between two different drivers. But ultimately, there wasn't a whole lot of action besides the restarts, which is kind of common with Phoenix anyways. Ultimately, I am a really big fan of moving the championship race to another track in 2026 and potentially rotating that championship event every year between maybe 5 or 6 different tracks. Nevertheless, I thought the product here this weekend was okay. It wasn't wonderful, it wasn't awful, but it was kind of your middle of the road race. I definitely liked it better, I think, than the 2022 championship race. I thought last year's championship race was much more interesting, in my opinion, than this one was. But ultimately, I think this race is going to get a 70%, which is definitely above the yellow line. In my opinion, a 70% is kind of like an average rating, but ultimately not a bad way to end the season in terms of the racing product itself. So how would you rate this race? Let me know in the comments below. And with that, we are done with this episode of Above the Yellow Line, our final regular episode of the season. First off, thank you all for watching this content all season long on the TobyChristieCom channel. I appreciate your support more than you know. I appreciate Toby Christie and the entire TobyChristie.com team for allowing me to produce Above the Yellow Line on this channel for the past 2 years. It's been life-changing, and I've made friends and even two I consider family that I will have around me for a lifetime, and I appreciate them more than they will know. It has been a true honor and a blessing to work alongside the crew at TobyChristie.com the past 2 years, and I've learned so much from them. I've become friends with so many of them, and like I said, they're truly like family to me, so I'm really blessed for this opportunity, and I'm so excited to let you all know what Above the Yellow Line has in store next. But truly, I cannot thank Toby enough for allowing me to share this platform with him for the past 2 years. It has been a true gift. Like I said, Above the Yellow Line has a lot going on, and we are so excited to make some major announcements on Thursday, November 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to give you a sneak preview of what our off-season content is going to look like and what things look like for us in 2025, so make sure you do not miss it. In the meantime, for all of your NASCAR news, make sure to go to TobyChristie.com, as well as visiting the Racing America website. And of course, for more about us and to get your ATYL merch, make sure to go to AboveTheYellowLine.com. Well, that does it for me for the final race recap of the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season. Thank you so much for joining me on this crazy journey. Thank you so much for your support. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends and family, and everybody, thank you so much for a fantastic 2024. And until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.